So, I'll just do this while everyone kind of gets here.
You wouldn't get it unless you have TikTok.
Hi from India. Hello, India. Me is half Indian.
Wow, what a surprise.
What's up, Ben? How you doing, pal? I know it's later for you guys now because of the time change. Oh, here she goes. Get it, get it.
Yes, amazing.
The time here is 3 in the afternoon.
3:09.
We're in California, so we're on Pacific Standard Time.
That's what it means.
So now, England is now 8 hours ahead instead of 7 for the last few weeks.
What?
No, I'm not going to do the Joe Exotic haircut. So what we've got going on is I'm going to do 2 versions, 2 variations. I'm going to do a more horizontal version of it on this side. What's up, geezer? And on this other side, I'm going to use a more vertical approach. Some of you that like my previous work from when I was at Paul Mitchell will love this side because that's going to be the Jackie haircut, also known as the Orbit, if you're Vidal friendly. And this side I'm going to do kind of like traditional round graduation, which is to use horizontal and sections using elevation, kind of similar to the classic Firefly, but it won't look like that. And make it a little bit more modern looking.
This chair feels cool.
So that's the section in, and I'm going to pass you off to the child.
The chair feels cold.
The child in the chair.
That feels cold.
Get up.
It's weird.
Alright, so yeah, let's do this. Let's do this side first, but we'll spin her around so the light's better. Because on this side we get the window view, don't we? So like I said, I've sectioned it 2 different ways. I'm going to do 2 different variations of round graduation. So on this left side of the mannequin, I'm going to use a more traditional horizontal approach. You kind of saw me do the square graduation the other day.
Hi, Ira.
It's going to be something similar, but we're going to make it round instead of square. So let's get started. So the first thing to do is to kind of establish the length that I want. So I'm going to put a horizontal section in. I can hear your stomach growling.
Mm-hmm.
Did you eat today?
I did.
Okay, good. Other than Nutella, what did you eat?
A grilled cheese.
Cheese.
Grilled cheese. What else about you? What did I have for breakfast? A lily wrap.
So what I don't really want to do is I don't want to actually round this too much. So I'm going to be a little flatter through here so it works nicer. I don't want it to be too dated. So I'm going to keep it like that. So my first section, I'm actually just going to comb that down and establish the length. And I'm going to go with the jawline. And I'm just going to place it right where that jawline is. So my comb literally just sits in there. And I'm just going to cut a flat line. And that's going to be my guide. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that guide and I'm going to pull that out with elevation. And I'm just going to pull it straight out from the head. I'm not going to pull this down, I'm just going to pull it straight out from the head. And I'm going to check that line. Next section. I don't want the section to be too big because then I'll start to pull the hair into an unnecessary place. So I've been saying all along, your section shouldn't be any thicker or wider than one of the fingers that you use to control the haircut with, because it's you that's doing the haircut. If you have massive fingers, then take smaller sections. That goes without saying. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that first section straight off the head again. So it's like a shelf. And I'm going to bring 2 down into number 1. So what's happening there is I'm bringing 2 below 90 degrees. Just below it, right? So that makes 2 longer than 1. I'm pulling away from what I want to keep.
He uses 5.5 Mizutani pen slim scissors.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's always very interested in what tools we use.
I didn't know that there was the factory thing on it till then you started and somebody asked.
Yeah, these were custom made for me when I first did the scissor. It was made for me. I know a lot of people have this scissor for them as well now, but Kiyoshi at Mizutani had it made for me, and he put my logo on it.
So cool.
So we did about, a limited run of those a couple of years ago. So now what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to get rid of number 1. And I'm going to pull number 2 straight off the head like a shelf. And I'm going to bring 3 down into that. So I'm traveling up the head, but I'm bringing it down into my previous section. Can they see this line?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pulling down, it's getting heavier towards the top. Let's just have a look at that and see if that is what is actually happening. And you can see that buildup of weight. But can you see how rounded that is? That's because I'm using elevation to create this graduation. If I used finger angle, then I would cut that much leaner, wouldn't I? Because my scissors are flat. So 2 different ways of achieving a buildup of weight. Because remember, there's 2 sides to weight. There's big and there's skinny. So I'm creating the bigger buildup of weight right now. And I'm moving all the way up to the natural round of the head. So again, I'm just going to get rid of all the previous sections that I don't need. And when you're doing this kind of jawline length and you use this elevation, it's really good because it places the weight on the cheekbones.
Someone's just bought Hanzo scissors and they want to know what your thoughts are.
No comment. Each to their own. Probably figure out what I mean by that. So now we're seeing that build up nice and round working through. So it's a much more beveled, more swollen graduation, hence weight being skinny or big. So now that I've actually reached the natural round of the head, if I keep doing the same thing, I'll be elevating all the way up here above the natural round of the head. So I'll take that weight and I'll push it even further up the head. That's a more internal graduation. I want more of an external graduation. So I want a definite weight line. So I'm now actually going to bring the head down onto this section, that last one that I just did. So this is now going to be stationary, and these sections are going to come down onto that. And that's going to build that weight line. So yesterday, someone commented that I was mean. I don't remember that. So, I mean, I'm actually not going to make any apologies for keeping it simple. I do believe there are no stupid questions, and I don't think I've ever felt the need to be mean when we're doing hair. I like to uplift people, and
There were a bunch of comments that were like, "Thank you for keeping it real."
yeah. Well, I'm kind of known for that. I've always been like that. I'm just a very common sense driven person, so sometimes that might come across as stern maybe, or definite, firm, but definitely not mean. So now I'm bringing everything down onto that section at the natural round of the head. So it's a stationary guideline now. So I'm definitely going to be building a stronger, heavier weight line. So I can see my weight line through here. I also have to make mention that after this, at 5 p.m. California time, you guys should go to Gerard Scott Pacey's Instagram page, because me and my fellow Vidal Sassoon colleagues from back in the day, we're all going to do an Instagram like chat thing and talk about some of the stories and experiences that we went through together. You know, doing some awesome things like creating the family of techniques, which became the Vidal Sassoon ABC. We all did that in Santa Monica, so we're going to get back and talk about that a little bit later. And again, that's on Gerard's page at 5 o'clock. So again, the head of the section at the round of the head, that's my guide. And I'm pulling everything down onto that. All right, so now you're going to like take that into the back. So you can see that I didn't cut this right here to actually angle up and round. It's just going to look so dated. It will look like the 1970s wedge. It will look like Princess Diana in the early 80s. So I don't want to do that. So that's why I just changed the angle in the front a little bit. So it's technically not going to be fully round, but I'm using the premise of what we were doing around graduation. So now I need to take this into the nape, into the back. So I take that first section, again, like I had in the front, and now I start to move into this back area. And my next section is going to follow the angle of the natural hairline. So it's vertical diagonal back. Try and work clean here. I'm using the mannequin from yesterday, where we did the medium length square layer, kind of like a layered bob in a sense, which most people nowadays are going to call a shag. So you see that's the front, and I'm going to use that as a guide now, and I'm going to take this into the nape. I'm not going to follow the head shape. Remember, graduation, you have to create a buildup of weight. So if I follow that right now, this is going to be weak, it's going to be layered. So I'm actually going to have to take it in. So if you can see that V that's created, that is essential to creating graduation. Following the head shape is layering.
And Angel's doing really good. She's
Yeah,
definitely
she's
more
cute.
used to it.
Yeah, she's getting used to life here in the house. So again, taking that all the way in. My fingertips are pointed in towards the nape.
Do you use any product on the mannequin prepping the hair before cutting?
I don't actually. I'm not a big, like, stuff in the hair as I'm cutting it. I put it in afterwards before I blow dry it. There are lotions that you can use. These are the two I really like, or that we use at my place. That's number 4 Super Comb and electric prep spray. But sometimes it gets too slippy, so I'm not really into slippy flappy hair. So I take my second section in the front.
What actually is a shag?
The shag is round concave layers, probably more medium length. There's definitely a fringe involved. Fringe is English for bangs. American terminology right there. So just like 2 got brought down into number 1 in the front, 2 is going to be brought down into number 1 in this one as well. So I'm going to direct it into that first section. Stay clean. How are you doing there with
I almost
your camera?
fell
So you're
over.
going to fall over, aren't you? Stop dancing. So again, into that first section. So it's getting longer towards the back. And it's getting shorter towards the nape. So this particular technique, very strong technique, it's probably been around forever, but very like early days with round shapes for me, and Sassoon world was like the Isadora and shapes like that cut by Roger Thompson, and then they were more like longer round shapes, probably more closer to one length. And then all of a sudden started to use elevation, like Christopher Brooker was doing it. Trevor Sorby created the Sassoon wedge, which is a very great haircut looking, but not very practical because it was super heavy. Christopher Brooker then did the Firefly in Sassoon world. It was a very popular shape in the early, mid, late 70s into the 80s. Yeah.
What do you use to keep your mannequin so wet for cutting?
Water. Whoa. Yeah. Just like we use on regular hair. Just use the water spray. Water.
Brain explosion.
So into the previous section, again, all the way through. So a round shape descends from front to back. So its heaviest point is going to be the centre back.
Can you show the sectioning really quick again?
Yeah, come on over here. That's what I mean, they're asking you to show that. So I worked up the head horizontally through here, building that weight. And now what I'm doing is I'm joining the back area into that. I'm using the exact same philosophy I'm bringing into my previous section, so it's edging towards the back. Come over here. You can't see anything there. You're reading. That's it. Keep an eye on what the mannequin's doing, babe.
What are you cutting again?
Round graduation.
Where do you get your doll heads? Hair art and pivot point. But this is a hair.
This is a hair art one. I also use pivot point mannequins. I just got a bunch of mannequins today from hair art. So that means we got more haircuts to do, guys.
Where can you buy the scissors?
You can get the scissors at Mizutani. Go to Mizutani America here on Instagram and you'll see all sorts of different models that they have. Very good scissor company, Japanese. But, you know, I've used quite a few different pairs of scissors over the years and I have some favourites. So they're definitely not the only pair of scissors that I use. They're just my current favourites. Kind of like when you find that pair of shoes that you really like to wear all the time.
Me and my Air Force
You
Ones.
and your Air Force Ones.
Living
Ira and his
room.
Crocs.
My mom is starting to steal my Crocs.
Yeah.
I knew she would get around to liking
So you
them.
can see that flow of weight getting heavier towards the back. So the thing is to look at it in that movement of back, and you can see that flow of weight. So just classic round graduation here. The other side, we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit, make it slightly different.
Oh, as you can see, the piano is now just all heads, all doll heads. Lovely. What do you think about razor cutting?
I don't razor cut, but I know a few people that are very talented at razor cutting. one of my best friends, Gerard. I was just talking about Gerard earlier. He's amazing at razor cutting. And he's also a former Vidal Sassoon teacher like myself, so you can imagine the level of information that you'd get from him using the razor. Tim Duenas, he's also really good on the razor. And Kelly does hair, who works with us at Knowledge Destroys Fear. She's great with the razor too. There's a lot of people that are talented out there with that tool.
Thoughts on letting graduated shapes dry as you cut them?
I don't really have any thoughts on that, to be honest with you. It doesn't really, it's not something that I do. By all means, let it dry, see what's happening with it. So, I don't know if you can see this, me. Come over here. Let's see if we get a better view. That flow of weight now, from front to back, pure round, all the way through. So I'm working all the way up to the parting, and I'm pulling to the round of the head. So remember, when we got to the round of the head through the front, I pulled everything down. So I'm doing the same thing now in the back. So that round of the head is basically what the O-bone is, isn't it? Not bothered about whether I'm going through and getting shorter on that side. I'm actually just leaving that to get longer, and I'll come through on this other side and take care of that after.
Did you hear my neck just crack?
I'm cracking.
It's really loud. I went like this and then cracked. That happened to me when I was on Gucci and Carla heard it. It's very loud. Because she tripped.
So, trying to stay as clean as possible. Get all that hair I don't need out of the way. Come over here.
How do you pull hair out so clean and straight? I always get these finger/knuckle marks.
I guess I've been doing this a long time, and the way I was trained was to constantly practice. It's kind of like learning to ride a bike, guys. You don't just jump on the bike and be able to, race down the street. You've got to work on that balance of gravity so you don't fall off. And it's the same thing with moving hair around. It just gets easier. Practice until you can't do it wrong. So everything's been brought into that section that was at the round of the head. Now you'll notice on this particular haircut, I move the head around, probably more than I ever do in any other haircut, and that's because it's a round graduated haircut. It requires a lot of putting it in the right place that your body sometimes cannot do. What's up, babe?
What was Princess Diana's haircut in the 90s? In the 90s.
More of a layer, I think, from what I remember. So more on the square layer, probably. Or a little triangularness to it through the top, because I remember she had this long always, so it was a variation of what she had in the early 80s. Okay, so we're going to continue. So I have to actually get rid of this right now, babe, so. Because my sections have to maintain that diagonal all the way through. So let's do this. How's everybody doing? We all right? Okay, coming back over. So again, down to that mound of the head. So the parietal ridge, as it's known. I'm just taking this.
Diagonal back sections?
Horizontal diagonal back sections, yeah. I think I've got one more section to do and then I've reached the parting at the top. So let's just have a look the opposite way and check our graduation. You're going to see that over here, babe. You're doing some yawnings. Come over on this side, please.
Not as much
So
young.
just checking the angle the opposite way, and that's going to show me my build-up of weight that's been happening. Nice and clean. It's been a bit since I've done a round grad, so little self-celebration right there. So you can see that flow of weight. You know, don't think anything about the outline. That would be the last thing that we make look good. But I'm looking at the flow on the inside. So nice, clean, round graduation. Last section on this side.
Why does the hair smell good?
Probably because I've rinsed it and I've used conditioner.
Okay.
So there's conditioner
that
smell
makes
in there.
sense.
Kind of like when your hair smells good when you've washed it. Same thing.
My hair still smells good. The reason why I got the scent and the shampoo so strong, because
what?
it still smells.
Good. And this is the custom shampoo that you
Yeah,
have?
the Function of Beauty. Peaches. It smells like peaches.
So guys, side one. Classic horizontal diagonal back graduation. Right now it's asymmetric. I could turn this haircut into something quite creative right now. I could not do round on this side and I could just start to overdrape backwards now and I'd turn round graduation into triangular graduation. So very popular shape from Sassoon back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's also known as the space helmet haircut. You'll see a lot of people doing any geometric haircut like that. So let's have another look. Let's do a recap now. You have a question?
Where did you start your career and at what age?
I started my career at 18 years old at Vidal Sassoon in Santa Monica, California. So even though I'm English, I'm technically an American hairdresser and I'm proud of that. So what we've done is, I've worked through the front to begin with. I've used horizontal sections. And what I've done is I've elevated down into my previous, all the way up the head until I got to the natural round. And then I brought all of these sections down to that elevation at the round. And then I've connected the back into that. So I took the identical section and I did the same thing. So I've got that rounded through. And then I brought down into my previous, just like I'd done before, until I reached the round of the head, which the parietal turns into that occipital ridge, that way. So it's kind of like when I was working with triangular the other day and I was telling you about that round of the head. Well, this is the opposite. So it helps me with a round flow of weight. So let's do this side now. Actually, I'll just do a quick cross check.
In doing this haircut, can someone keep their how can someone keep their elevation in check?
Anytime you do graduation, you know when you're at the right spot because your guideline will be thick and solid. So, like that versus that side. You know what I mean? So that is way more bolder than what that is because there's more space in between. So when I see a guide that looks like that, I'm probably too low or I'm too high. Also, use your mirror. The mirror will tell you exactly where to elevate to because you can see it.
And of course, we're using the very far mirror.
Well, it's really difficult for me to see my elevation today because I'm so much closer to the head.
And there's a lot of heads in the way of your view.
Yeah. So I'm relying on looking at that guideline, and I'm also relying on 26, 27 years of doing this at this level. So I'm cross-checking through, I'm coming back the opposite way and just looking at that build-up. So it's nice and clean, I'm quite happy with that.
Ever get the shivers? I just want...
Did you get a shiver?
Yeah. Wait, have you ever gotten the shivers while cutting hair?
Well, somebody was asking me the other day, do I get tremors? Because they're dealing with that, where their hands start shaking. And the only time I've ever experienced that is probably like it's anxiety. So, you know, going on stage and cutting hair, I might not look it, but internally I'm, you know, nervous. So sometimes it's very hard for me to actually physically move my hands to cut the hair. So this is the only kind of, you know, thing I've experienced where, oh shit, this is not working properly, you know what I mean? But that's just human, you know.
I used to do that, like, remember that that one Christmas when I got that giant house with all the calico critters? When I was placing everything, my hands were shaking because it's so small.
Uh-huh.
And I kept dropping it, or... Those are very small.
Okay, so side one done. Round graduation. So let's do the other side. Let's do the vertical diagonal version. This is one of my favorite haircuts. It's originally called the Orbit, which was a contemporary classic at Vidal Sassoon. I believe it was number 6. And Mark Hayes had cut this in the original video. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to get rid of what's funny. You like me?
I will. Someone said me you should do a TikTok with your dad and all the heads on the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's going to be like, what?
So where the round of the head is, I'm just going to take a section that follows that all the way through. Just following that. So if I put my comb flat on that round right now, it just follows it all the way through. So I'm on the parietal ridge that turns into the occipital ridge. So I'm using that round of the head shape. Kind of like if you were to do triangular shapes, you'd use that round of the head shape. So we'll get this out of the way. Like so. So, back in the mullet production days, remember we talked about that yesterday? The production company that I had with a few former colleagues of mine. This was the last haircut that I did there, and it was called the Jackie. I think in Paul Mitchell world they called it something else, but this is the one. So I've sectioned away at the round of the head, and now I'm going to take a vertical diagonal back section. It literally is just following the hairline. So whatever angle that is, I'm doing pretty much the same thing. So if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask. Is me asking me the good questions? Yeah, you are. You catching them all? Let's just see if she's where I need it to be for now. That works. So the first section, I'm actually going to cut on the skin. Get a bit of water on that. Make it a bit heavier by adding the water. Probably another reason why I don't just let the haircut dry. I want the consistent elasticity all the way through, and I want the same weight.
Do you ever pivot the initial hairline section?
Are you talking about this one?
I'm not sure.
If you are, no, not really. I'm pretty sure you can. But I don't want to overcomplicate it. So I'm going to put in a line that works about there. So kind of like low cheekbone. So let me see the best way to do this on a mannequin where it's glued to the head.
They're asking what the full name of the Vidal Sassoon book you had yesterday was.
The book that we had the other day?
Yeah.
I had the ABC book, and I had the Paul Mitchell cutting system book. I'm going to do a theory class this week at some point and go through all the stuff, all the breakdown. Come over here, Bea. So by me combing that down and then putting that line in there, look at that. It's graduation. So I'm just going to clean that up. So I've created the graduation by actually cutting that line on where I want it to be. So we're going to go for that. So next section. Same thing, vertical diagonal back. Again, don't take too giant of a section. See, what happens when you take a massive section, you think maybe that you're going to get through it quicker. But that section has to go into the middle of itself, into your fingers. So if it gets over-directed too much, then when you cross-check, you're going to have all these corners all over the place. And that's what makes haircuts look lumpy when you've finished. So I'm going to take number 2 and I'm going to bring that forward into number 1. So if I pull the hair forward, it gets longer and heavier towards the back. So again, pulling away from what I want to keep. Next section.
Isn't it weird how when you yawn, like it makes your jaw open?
You're starting to yawn again.
Because I started thinking about yawns.
Oh yeah, you know why you're yawning? Because you're not doing anything, because apparently it's spring break.
But like, isn't it weird how it makes your jaw open? Like,
Duh.
but I mean, it's weird.
So I'm over-directing into the previous. So 3 is now going forward into number 2. Come and show them this side, me, so that they can see that I'm not using number 1 anymore. I'm just bringing 3 into 2, and now I'm going to get rid of number 2 and number 1, and I'm going to bring 4 into 3. So it's a traveling guide. It's a traveling haircut. I'm moving with this all the way around. So into my previous section. So I'm combing the side of the section that I haven't cut, excuse me. I'm never combing the guide. If I comb that, I move the guide towards me. If the guide moves off its base, it's actually shorter. Are you watching what's going on? Come over here. Keep coming. They need to see that. So continuing into the previous and taking this into the nape. Remember, it's graduation. It's got to get shorter. You cannot just follow the head shape. See, that would just be a layer, because that's going to be the same as that. Take the hair in. That was one of the biggest things that I remember learning early on. I think it's because I learned from some really awesome mentors. But we're taught it in its purest form. keeping my sections vertical, diagonal back. I'm approaching the round of the head now, so I've got to be really careful and make sure that I'm consistent. So again, everything's coming forward into just the previous section. So I'm getting gradually longer towards the back. So I'm getting longer in two places, the top and the back. So my finger angle is taking care of the buildup of weight this way, and my over direction is taking care of it this way.
Station 8 Salon in Boston misses you.
Hey, I like Boston, cool place. Except for the tea party.
Oh. Oh no, dad jokes.
Just kidding. So look, starting to see that flow moving into the back. Nice, clean, round grad. Coming out this side more vertically, this side was horizontal. So this is going to be more mushroom and heavier. This is going to be a little leaner on this side. My favorite is this side. So yesterday I when I did the medium square layer, I applied a little bit of cream to the hair, and then I diffused it. I didn't even touch the hair, I just let it do its thing. And that's how I ended up with style. Some people ask me how I did that. I'm not a huge stylist guy, so I'm not really going to blow dry a bunch of style in there because clients are never very good at that. So I actually try and cut the style in so that it's easier for the clients to do. So I'm more of a haircutter than I'm a hairstylist. I find that's what really most hairdressers are really good blow dryers.
If you elevate a vertical section above 90, but you cut a triangular line which doesn't follow the head, would you be layering or graduation?
I think I know what you're talking about. So if I'm cutting this and I pulled that up there, what does it look like to you? That's still going to be longer.
Yeah.
That's still going to be shorter. So no. Keep it simple, guys. I think that's the thing. Everyone's just trying to figure out stuff. Don't overcomplicate it for yourself. Pull away from what you want to keep. So everything's just been brought forward into the previous section. So I've moved around the whole haircut myself with my body position. Are you okay?
Yes.
What do you keep doing? You keep doing this thing.
Oh, because if
Can't
I...
stand still, can you?
No, because... Okay, I put my hand behind my
Shut
back. I put my hand behind my back because if I put it here, then I'm going to cover the mic.
Oh, right.
Because I don't think about it. So I have to, like... Okay. No, one hand.
Don't fall over. That wouldn't be cool. So, consistency is the key. This is graduation. Graduation is the most unforgiving technique. It's pure construction, which is much harder to do than organized demolition, which is what layering is.
You like tea, right?
Do I now?
What? I thought you liked tea.
I mean, I'm not a massive tea drinker. I think that's kind of, I don't know. Is that racist right there? Because I'm English? Just kidding. No, I'm not a real big tea drinker. I don't drink caffeine, so tea's not that brilliant if it's not got caffeine in it. I do have the occasional cup of tea though.
And you like it?
But, see, when I was a kid, I'm an only child, so Grandma and Granddad, all they ever did was drink tea. And guess who had to make it?
Yeah.
Me. So, no. So I've reached the other side now. I'm not going to continue because I don't want to interfere with the other side. I'm now going to move into the top area. So come over on this side, mate. And see much better. It's a nice roundish shape. Can come through this way now and check that. So checking the opposite dimension, the opposite angle. You can see that roundness in the build up there. Probably could check that off.
Someone said I was the tea and fried egg sandwich maker of the family.
Yeah, I didn't get to do that fried egg sandwich business. But the tea, and then we didn't have like gas central heating where I live. We had a coal fire, so I had to go get the coal and sort that out. And you can imagine what that's like in England in the winter, just brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't change it. I enjoyed my childhood.
I want to go to England again. Not now.
Not
but,
right now, not allowed. Can't go anywhere near it. Can't leave anywhere. We're stuck. Alright, so let's do the top. So let's just look at that building. Yeah. Alright, so let's continue. So now we need to connect. Can you hear the pigeons out there?
Mm-hmm. I was like, that's not Angel. Oh,
So,
she hears the birds.
Basically, the angle of the section extends into the top now. So vertical diagonal back sectioning.
Where in England did you where in England did you live? Is that
I was
pronouncing right?
born and raised in South Yorkshire. I was born in a city called Sheffield, and we lived just outside a city called Rotherham, or a town you would call. So I'm gonna join this in. Very low elevation.
I think they're just a little confused. Someone said, how's the dog with Angel?
Oh, how's Buddy? Duh.
With Angel.
How was he with the bird?
Yeah, I said I think they're just confused. Buddy and Angel.
They're fine.
Well, yeah,
they're great
fine.
with each other.
They're
No one's confused. They're asking you a question. How was Buddy with the
No,
bird?
I'm talking about Buddy. Is like confused.
Ah,
Why?
okay,
What is?
you're answering the question.
Yeah.
So you gotta tell me that. What are we talking about? Yeah, Buddy was confused for sure. He didn't know what to think of.
And then the second day, he just turned his back, and then he was fine.
Yeah, Buddy's obsessed with me. Not me personally, my daughter, me. Mimi. And that's his human. So now that I've done that, I'm going to use elevation. I'm going to come over here and do it. And I'm going to push 2 into 1. All the way through. 2 onto 1. So this particular graduation is more internal graduation. I'm working above that round of the head. Hence the name orbit. It's orbital. Into the previous. So now 3 goes into 2. And I'll continue in that manner all the way through. Prop around this one. Vertical diagonal back. Once I start to hit the round of the head, I'm going to have to start pivoting so I can keep my sections vertical diagonal back. Any questions, me? We good?
Is this stage considered a bias?
Nope, no bias. Pure round graduation, I'm building weight. I think a lot of people get confused as to what the bias is. The bias is not the sectioning, the cutting line, excuse me, it's the sectioning. It's cutting against the grain, it's cutting that diagonally through here. But it's not working this way. The bias works this way, and then it works that way. That's the bias part. It's not the fact that you're cutting a convex peak, that's a convex peak. So some people get confused as to what the bias actually is. That's a haircut we could do. I feel the bias falls into the Karen category right now, so it's a little dated.
Why did you switch sides?
What do you mean?
I'm not sure.
Why did I do this way instead of this way?
Maybe.
So you can see what I'm doing much better. See, that's the art of being a teacher, is being able to cut hair in different ways so that you audience can see what you're doing.
What would be the theoretical difference between internal and external graduation?
Internal, the elevation is above the round of the head. External, it's below the round of the head. So external, look at the front. External keeps a peak of weight that's below the round of the head, right? Whereas I'm pushing this peak higher up. So external is very heavy, so it looks more like a rooftop, you know what I mean? Whereas internal is more like a light bulb. It's a softer build-up of weight. It's not such a heavy, steep build-up.
Can you catch me up on the haircut?
So what have we been doing? We've been working round graduation, and on this left side, I did a much more traditional round graduation using horizontal sections and using elevation to do this. On this side, I'm working vertical diagonal sections. So I'm physically cutting the build-up of weight. So I'm showing two variations. One's external, one's internal, but they're both round.
That's my bird.
If you don't know, me got a bird yesterday, this past weekend, our latest addition to the family.
Angel. She's probably heard some other birds. What haircut is this and the purpose of the other direction? Of over direction, sorry.
The purpose of over direction, if I over direct forward, it gets heavier towards the back. It's that simple. Round gets heavier towards the back. It's a descending of weight from front to back. So my over direction makes it get longer towards the back. On the other side, I used finger angle because I was working more horizontally, so a different aspect on the other side. I didn't use any over direction. And I think we're just going to cross over and then that will be it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, because it is definitely one of those techniques that you need to know if you're going to cut hair and if you're going to control hair. It's just over here. And that's it. Oops. A doozy. Alright. So I'll just recap for you guys real quick, tell you what we did. We've done round graduation. So on this side, it's much heavier because I used horizontal sections. I worked this way and brought down to the natural round of the head. So pushed my weight up higher, which is still external because my elevation was below the round of the head. And took that into the back, did the exact same thing down into the previous until I got to the round of the head, then pulled that down. That's why you see a much heavier weight in this area. And then on this side was done a little differently. I came through and I used vertical diagonal sections so I can actually create a leaner buildup of weight. And I sectioned the top away, oops. Like so. And I used vertical diagonal back sections. And I cut a graduation and I over directed forward into the previous section, so that's how it drops off towards the back. And then I continued that with my sectioning and joined the top in. So you see that it gets longer and heavier towards the center. So 2 variations of round graduation. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I'm going to blow dry it off and see what refining I have to do, see if it looks any good. Should do. And then I'll post it. Thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you watching what we're doing. We're loving doing this. And we will be back tomorrow with more. What you doing? You doing filters?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do
Okay.
dog filter. Or wait, oh wait, she can't talk. That doesn't make sense. Oh, bunny filter.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks guys. We'll see you later and we'll see you tomorrow for sure. Bye.